Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti. Shiviti, 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 Shiviti. This is a blessing for all of us to be together right now. Certainly a blessing for me. A miracle, really, that we can be together in this way. And with that, I feel it's appropriate to say Shechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, the source of all life, who has sustained us and enabled us to reach this day. This is the first of these gatherings, which I hope are going to happen every Wednesday at 8 o'clock for the near future. When I am not here, there will be guests who will be in my chair, metaphorically so. And I'm dedicating these teachings to the memory of my beloved Rabbi Zalman Schacter-Shalomi, without whom I would not be sitting here with you tonight. I'm going to go back and share the screen so you have the words. Shiviti, 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 Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti, Shiviti. I have a very clear intention, surprise, surprise, for these times together. Here they are. My hope and intention is to leave you all with a number of things, either one or more. To leave you with a song, to leave you with a spiritual practice, to leave you with a teaching, to leave you with a story, to leave you with some silence of spaciousness, to leave you with a sense of yichud, a sense of unity, a sense that all things are interconnected. leave you with a smile. About an hour ago, Renee asked me, what exactly are you doing? And I was at a loss as to how to explain it. Took the easy way out by saying, well, just come. She said, but I want to let other people know. And so what I came up with in the moment was, this is a semi-autobiographical, deeply ecumenical half hour of Torah study. So with that, I want to share a story with you. When my son Zach, and I'm going to bring him up here, when he was around that age, which I'm guessing is 3, we called him a chipmunk because he used to stuff as much food in his mouth as he possibly could. And that's the way he went through his days. But one day, Zach and I were in the bathroom, and he was in a nice warm bath, and I was keeping him company, of course, and the room was filled with steam, you know, the way a bathroom can get from the hot water. And there was something really magical about it, and something resonated in me to ask Zach the following question. I asked him, Zach, do you remember when you were born? And without hesitation, he replied, no. You know, as easily as that. And then I thought for a moment and I said, do you remember when you were in mommy's tummy? And again, matter-of-factly, he said no. By this time, he was out of the bath and I had him wrapped up, you know, in a big towel, drying him off. And finally, I asked him, well,
present your federal badge.
Mark Grayboys, you need to mute yourself. So finally, I asked him, Zach, do you remember before you were in mommy's tummy? And without hesitation, he replied, I guess I was with God. So there is my little mystic. And that story brings up for me an important way to begin, I think, which is to talk about the G word. Because I'm going to be using the word God, I might switch over at points to speak of the divine in any number of names. El Shaddai, Adonai, Elohim, Harofeh, Rahmana, all different facets of the divine. But I want to read a little bit from Reb Zalman. He says, God, oi, what a word. Which handful of letters in the history of the world has accumulated more baggage than these? Too often, as soon as we catch ourselves at it, we hang up quick. We say, did you say God? Our internal prosecuting attorney jumps up with lists of objections as long as your arm. The angry old man in the sky, that far off other who commands and keeps score and rewards and punishes, that God who stands by while innocents suffer, while children die of hunger every day. The God that the rabbis are always invoking, God commands this, God forbade that. Most of us are still angry with the patriarchal, punitive God of our Hebrew schools and synagogues, prayer books and Bibles. We have so little stomach for this business, for this God business, that we are barred from everything it brings in its wake. I'm skipping a page to read the Tibetan Buddhist Lama Choigam Trungpa, founder of Naropa University in Boulder, where I teach, told a group of us one day that his son had asked him, Daddy, is there a God? His father answered, no. And the little boy sighed and said, phew, I was scared there for a while. There's not one person in this room who has not been befuddled by or challenged by the word God and what it represents. Reb Zalman, of course, is famous for blessed memory, is famous for saying that Judaism is totally over intellectualized and underexperienced. And so my hope that we'll be able to experience some of the divine's grace and some of the divine pleasure during our time together. I recall, speaking of God and and images of God, a wonderful Gary Larson cartoon that some of you might recall. Remember The Far Side? Gary Larson was absolutely brilliant, and he he had a cartoon that was the caption was God at his computer. Now, just in the caption itself is problematic, using a gendered God, which I lean away from. But that's what the caption was: God at his computer. If he didn't mean to do it, it was correct in the way that he showed what he meant. And this is what it was. So it's one panel, the comic is, and what you see is a picture of this old man with a white beard sitting at his computer. On the computer screen, he's looking at the following. He's looking at a cityscape, and he's seeing a man walking down the street on the sidewalk with an apartment building right behind him. Unbeknownst to the man, above him, a piano is being lifted to an apartment upstairs. So here's the man, there's the piano, here's God, and his finger is pointed to the enter button. I'm afraid to say that many of us still live with that image, that there's some guy just waiting to zap us, following our every footsteps. You know, every step you take, every move you make, I'll be watching you. Reb Zalman called that a pediatric understanding of the divine, a pediatric understanding of God. Something that it's okay when we are in elementary school. When we get a little older, if it hasn't matured, we're going to either be left out of the conversation or we're going to run as fast as we can from what that represents. So if that is not God, then what is? A story. Once upon a time, there was a little wave. The wave loved being a wave, bobbing along in the ocean, up and down, all day and all night. He enjoyed the wind and the fresh air, surrounded by lots of other waves, who he enjoyed watching and playing with. Then one day the little wave noticed that something seemed to be happening to the waves in front of it. It noticed that it, along with all the other waves, was coming up to something big, the end of the ocean. The little wave saw a wave in front of it going up higher and higher. That wave was filled with light and was high as it could possibly go, which was the best part of being a wave. And then it came crashing down and smashed into bits. My God, this is terrible, the wave said. Look what's going to happen to me. The little wave saw another wave in front of it do the same thing, going way up high and then come crashing down. Another one going way up high and crashing down. Little wave saw this and became very, very afraid. A voice called out from him. A voice called out to him from amidst the sea, "Little wave, why do you look so sad?" And little wave answered, "Don't you get it? We're all going to crash. All of us waves are going to be nothing. Isn't it terrible?" And the voice remained calm, saying, "No, you don't understand, little wave. You're not only a little wave, you're a part of the ocean. You're not only a little wave, you're a part of this great ocean. And in that moment, the little wave trickled onto the beach and then turning, rolled back into the ocean. I want to invite you all to close your eyes for a moment and take a nice deep breath. And exhale, feet firmly on the floor if you can. And with your inhalation, be mindful of anything within you that is holding on, either physically or mentally, spiritually, to preconceptions or tightness of any kind. And with the exhale, to send the exhale to that part of you that needs release. As you do so, begin to notice the spaciousness that creeps in. All of a sudden, there's more sky. And if a thought enters your mind, which is very natural to do, that's like a cloud coming across your sky. Allow it to dissipate and allow the breath to create more spaciousness, which in turn creates more presence. As you breathe, notice, in a way, you are both more present, and in a way, your you begins to dissolve into the greater sea, into the greater godliness, into the greater divinity that surrounds us and fills us, that surrounds us and fills us at every moment. Take another 30 seconds, allowing your breath to fill every nook and cranny of yourself. And imagine, if you will, when the in-breath, that you are being breathed, that your breath is coming from the source of all breaths, Nishmat Kol Chai, the breath of all life. So that we are breathing and being breathed simultaneously. And when you're ready, allow your eyes to open and to notice if you are now seeing the things and colors around you with any greater clarity. I want to allow 2 minutes for any observations, not a question, but if you have anything about that experience that you would like to share in a few words. And the way you unmute yourself again is to press down on your space bar and hold it, and then let go. You'll be muted again.
There's a Belts woman present, so for me, I really felt strongly about the little wave. It was a beautiful image to use as part of the meditation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. If one other person has anything you'd like to share, Mary, hit your space bar. I'm not hearing you. I'll unmute you. It's not unmuting. Up there we go. Okay.
I found myself feeling lighter and straighter and just more open instead of closed in.
Thank you. That I sense is the unbearable lightness of being. Sometimes when we're filled with that, it can hurt in its extreme beauty. If no one else has something you'd like to share right now, I want to present the name of God that we are
Mark, excuse me, I think Marjorie's trying to say something.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mary.
I think Marjorie's trying to say something, and
Marjorie, I have to unmute you. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Marge.
Hi, I feel very peaceful, and it's very comforting, and this is so also new to me. For the moment, that's what I'd like to share.
Thank you, Marge. I want to point out that that feeling of peace is a reminder of that every prayer of ours, every prayer journey ends with MOSh Shalom, ends with peace. And so the rabbis who bequeathed us the words of wisdom that we find in, and the spiritual journey that we find in Asidur, that's what their hope was, that would be our end point, which is Shalom, is peace. God's name, or the one that appears that we use most commonly, is that. That's a Yud. It's the smallest letter of the alphabet. The second letter is a Hey. And when you put them together, you have Yud Hey. Everyone, make an audible out-breath. What you hear is what Hey sounds like, the letter Hey. It sounds like the out-breath. It also, by the way, sounds like the in-breath. Let's all take an in-breath. Right, so if you do it audibly through your mouth, you have two letters of the alphabet, two letters of God's name. Okay? Good, hey, vav. Oh, that didn't come out. Okay. So the third letter, well, I'm going to have to show you the whole name here. Of course, I can't find the one with just three letters. Is Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. This letter here, Vav, is a connecting letter. Of course, in Hebrew, it means and. And if you notice, it's got a little crook on the end. That's to pull heaven down to earth. So you have Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. And that is the name that God uses to introduce God's self to Moses at the burning bush. A funny thing happened on the way to the burning bush, which is in the very first book of Genesis, of Bereshit. It says that we were made in God's image. So let's take a look at what that might look like if we take those letters, Yud, He, Vav, He, which is God's name, and stack them one on top of the other. Somebody hit your space bar and tell us what you see.
A person.
A person. That's right. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. No, head, shoulders. There's your torso, and the bottom part, your spine, and then the bottom part, Yud, He, Vav, He. So in a way, this is a Hasidic mystical teaching. The idea of being made in the image of God is that God's name itself is embedded within us. There's a wonderful practice of walking around and naming everything as God and saying, image of God, image of God. We've done that in our gatherings. We point to another human being and say, image of God. So that is your homework assignment, which is to see the divine in everyone and in everything. By doing so, you are accomplishing the task set out in Psalm 16 that was put to music by Rabbi Andrew Hahn that I sang when I started off with, and that I'm going to lead us out with. A little bit of housekeeping here. If you would like to invite anyone else to come join us in future Wednesdays, tell them to get in touch with me and I'll send them the room so I have their email address. Okay. On my website, rebmarco.com, I have added a book, what do you call those at the top of the page? A pull-down menu called MOSh Pit. In there, if you click on there, you're going to find many of the references, including this song, links to references that I made this evening. Okay. In there will be books like Reb Zalman's, a link to him on Wikipedia, which give you some idea who he is for those of you who don't know. Let this begin a conversation across space and time, because that is exactly what Torah is. I thank you all so much for joining me today. Maybe next week Renee will juggle. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti, 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 Shiviti. Shiviti, Shiviti, Shiviti. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Erev Tov. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.